In this video, we bring you 7 patterns you need to know for West Coast Swing. What's up, gang? It's Brian B.
And Miss Megan.
From westcoastswingonline.com. We are bringing this video to you live from the lockdown due to the coronavirus here in mid-April. So this is 7 patterns you need to know for West Coast Swing. And Miss Emily just looked at my list and she said, Brian B., that's not 7 patterns, that's 14. Let me explain. We all know that we need to know the basic patterns. We're gonna cover those briefly. If you want details on the basic patterns, I've got another video for you. Then we're gonna cover the next 7 patterns that you need to know after that. So this was kind of inspired by an email that we got that said, hey Brian, I like your, all these cool West Coast Swing techniques, the styling and musicality, but we've got some beginner dancers that are trying to progress from the beginner to the intermediate level. We all know the basic patterns, but what would be the 7 patterns after those basics that we need to know? But I'm gonna leave you hanging with that one and we're gonna cover the basics first. So, basic patterns we need to know. We always have the good old-fashioned sugar push. Fun fact, this is actually not the sugar push. This is by technical definition, the push break. Although we've all called this a sugar push for so long, but by technical definition, you would have to do the sugar foot from Lindy for that to be a sugar push, but at this point I think it's gone. I try to change my terminology, but that is our most basic pattern, the sugar push or push break, right? Then we have, if we're using a tuck or a push type pattern, we would have a sugar tuck, right? And I categorize that with the sugar push because really we have 3 basic types of patterns. We have pushes that stay just, the follower comes in and goes back, right? Sugar push would be the first basic, right? A sugar tuck would be another one because it's still a push, right? Push. Then we're going to have patterns like side passes. So the next one, number 3, would be a left side pass. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So that's my left side pass. And that's a little bit weird for us because, especially for the leaders, because I'm stepping out of the slot to my right side, but it's really determined by which side the follower passes you on. And in this case, the left side pass is defined by the follower passing on my left side. So we have the sugar push, we have the sugar tuck, we have the left side pass. If I use the left side pass, and I teach this in my beginner classes, I say the left side pass is about the most boring pattern you're ever gonna learn. However, I need to know the left side pass before I can get to this inside roll. So that would be pattern number 4 is the inside roll. That would look like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. It's a turn that's given beginners fits. Since its inception, it's pretty tricky, but it is one of the basics you need to know. That's number 4. Then we have, working off, I'm gonna put Miss Megan here so I can look at the camera. Then we have a passing tuck. So it's built off of this left side pass, but we have a tuck. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. If we did it from the other side, this is number 5. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is we generally refer to that as a tuck turn or a left side passing tuck. Depends on how you want to define it. Cool. Now we have probably the most it's pattern number 6 in our list of 7 patterns you need to know as a beginner. We'll get to the next 7 in a second. But this is probably the second most common pattern you're going to dance in a night of dancing, and that is the right side pass, aka underarm turn. So again, it is by definition a right side pass because Miss Megan's passing on my right side. It is also commonly referred to as the underarm turn. Again, 6 count patterns so far. So if you're keeping track at home, we have a sugar push, we have a sugar tuck, we have a left side pass, we have a left side pass with an inside roll. We have a left side passing tuck. Then we have the right side pass, aka underarm turn. This is the point where beginners go crazy because now we switch up the 6 count basics and we go to an 8 count basic. So if you've been dancing a while, we like the whip, but when you're new, it's terrible. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If we do that from the other side. So in this pattern, it's no longer 6 beats, it goes all the way out to 8 beats. Again, born from Lindy Hop in its inception, probably in the early 50s, I think, if I remember correctly. So that is pattern number 7 is the whip. So you have basically 6 core 6 count patterns, and then you have 1 core 8 count pattern. Do we have any questions to this point?
Nope. I have one from yesterday or the day before.
Miss Megan has a question that someone brought up yesterday. Before we get into the 7 patterns you need to know next for West Coast Swing, what you got?
It applies. So the tuck turn that we did the other day, you kept going between 3 and 3. What is the difference?
Oh, good question.
And why
so,
do you do it?
if we're off topic. So if you came here for the 7 patterns and the 7 patterns only,
We'll get there.
we'll get there. What else we have to do? We're on lockdown from the coronavirus. So if I did my left side pass, I would typically count it 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. It is also common, if I do this tuck, to count it the same way. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. You will sometimes hear me count it, and you'll sometimes, in a lot of cases, hear a lot of people count it and dance it. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that would be this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so the question was, why is that? And I don't, because I haven't been alive for the entire history of West Coast Swing, I can't for sure give you an answer. However, I suspect that it comes from the way that the music is accented and the fact that by having the timing be 1, 2, and 3, where count 3 becomes a full beat, that is a beat that will accent 1s, 3s, 5s, 7s in the music, which means depending upon where you started dancing it, it will have a natural accent to the music. So I think that's probably, kind of stretches my history knowledge there, why you'll hear it counted that way. We often will count it that way, we'll often dance it that way, even from closed position. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. And for the most part, it does not mess up the structure of the dance. So in the previous class of nightclub, there was a question about the basic and should someone match the way their partner's doing the basic, and Emily described you are allowed some leeway as long as it doesn't mess the structure of the dance up. So for me, if I danced 1, 2, and I was able to continue to lead a turn, and Megan followed that, that's fine. If she became convinced that that wasn't a turn and just wanted to dance a left side pass with 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, it doesn't mess up what I'm doing, so it is acceptable. Typically, at the higher levels, you're going to get that feeling led, where the leader's going to give you something through his lead to accent it, or the other way, where Megan's dancing and I start to feel it and accent it. So, thank you for that question yesterday. If you have more questions during the week that we are not able to get to on our videos, we will be doing a 1 video per week. I think it's Friday night at 8 o'clock, 8 or 8:30, 8 o'clock, where we'll answer all the questions that come in via email. I have a whole spreadsheet of questions, so we'll get through as many of them as we can. So, what are the 7 patterns? Oh, we do have a question.
Yes. How does your hand signal the left side passing tuck?
How does my hand signal the left side passing tuck? Great question.
Sorry.
We discussed this a little bit yesterday. In a basic left side pass, this hand stays about as calm as it can. I love the left side pass because it tells me the truth about how good and how well connected we are. I should be able to dance this with no muss, no fuss, because that's pretty consistent, that lead. Cool? But if we're leading a turn, and I'm going to get to the tuck, if we're leading a turn, there's an obvious prep on the second step, which prepares the follower for the turn. So as the leader, if I was coming down the camera, sometimes we'd prep the 1, but typically we'd prep the 2 to prepare the follower to turn. So the clearest lead for the tuck is simply this: a pull to a medium high 5. Not a high 5, but like a medium high 5. So this right off the bat, Megan is getting a pull 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, which I suspect, now that I think about it, it's a pretty clear pull. It might, to the earlier question that you had, what causes people to go 1, 2, and 3, 4 on the tuck, and that could be another reason. Because there's a pretty strong pull to this position, pulling up to that high 5, that could also cause the follower to go a little fast and syncopate, which is not a terrible thing. Any more questions?
Not at the moment.
Good deal.
Back
So,
on track. Sorry.
what's that? Back on track. So what are the 7 patterns? We have a course called the Ultimate Guide for Beginners that's designed to walk people from the basics, because we all agree on those patterns right there. Pretty much no matter where you go to a West Coast Swing class, those patterns are the ones that we agree on. But where we go next is a matter of debate. So as I thought through some of the patterns, these are the ones we chose to include in our course. You're getting them for free here. So this one's actually not in the course, and this is a right side pass, and it's an odd right side pass, and it looks like this: 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So which pattern does that most look like to you, my online followers? What does that look like right here? Hint, hint. What does it look like? I'm going to wait till someone comments. We're on like a 20-second delay. Whoever said whip, correct. This looks a lot like a whip. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. However, it is a right side pass, and I love teaching this. And those people who've had the pleasure of learning from students, what's that? Kim Robertson. Good job, Kim. For those of you guys who don't know, Kim was one of my students, and so she knows what's in my brain about as well as anyone. So the reason why I like this right side pass is, what's the rule of the follower? Is to go the direction that the leader sends until told otherwise, right? So as the leader turns you around to this right side pass, this is a great thing. If you guys teach West Coast Swing, this is a great pattern to teach before the whip. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So all I should have to do is lead Megan in that direction, triple step, and then I pick her up, lead the kind of hook and anchor step. So that is a right side pass. The reason why I like this, and it's my pattern number 1, is because I think it's a great pattern to teach before the whip, because you've drilled the follower to go back, anchor step, and then you drill the follower to go back, and you pick up the connection as the leader and direct the whip. So if you guys teach, that is a fantastic pattern to be taught before the whip. So that's the first one of the 7 that I think people should know. Second would be an outside roll. So this one, I'm going to do this to the camera so you guys can see. The inside roll, it's a left side pass with an inside roll. So it's a left side pass because it's passing the leader's left side. It's an inside roll because the hand initiates inside between our heads. However, we have a right side pass with an outside roll, and that looks like this: 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. And already the first 2 patterns I've come up with look like a whip to start. 1, 2, but now my hand is switched, so Megan continues to that direction with an outside turn, 3 and 4, and we anchor 5 and 6. So that outside roll gets us to all sorts of cool patterns like this. Make sense? So that's number 2. Probably not the most important, but it is very good for the follower and leader to understand the setup to that turn. Cool. If you have any questions, type them in, you guys on Facebook and you guys on YouTube. So the next, there's 2 basic paths that I think people should learn from a whip as they get going a West Coast Swing. So if we have a whip, and you've kind of watched my theme, right? If we have an inside turn, if we have a basic, then we should be able to have an inside turn option and an outside turn option. So a whip with an inside turn, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. If we do it again, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We'll do that from the other side. So if you're a beginner West Coast Swing dancer, or a budding intermediate dancer that wants something easy to lead a beginner through that's not a basic, this is 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The reason why it's good is I have both hands on my partner, I switch the hand, and I send her through for 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we call it an inside turn, a whip with an inside turn, because the hand initiates inside of our heads. Pop quiz on our 20-second delay, I'm not waiting. We must have a whip with an outside turn. So the whip with the outside turn, this is super common back in the day. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of 5, 6, 7, and 8. That is a whip with an outside turn. If we did that from the other direction, whip with an outside turn. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here's where everything changes. On the inside turn, my hand initiated inside the head. On the outside turn, I've got the hand up and ready to go outside Miss Megan's head for a single outside turn. There is a double outside turn option, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I actually don't teach that too much because I don't think it's the most core thing to know, but that definitely exists. And if you did dance in the late 90s, early 2000s, you would have done that a lot. Do we have a question?
Yes. From YouTube, they say, as a follower, sometimes I mess up the whip by doing 1, 2 triple step and another triple. If I do that, is there a way to fix it quickly?
Good question. So the follower has trouble dancing a whip and making it into a 6-count pattern in essence, right? So what she's having trouble with, she or he, it's 2020, we'll assume it's a gal, is you've probably danced a lot of 6-count patterns, and then you get to the whip, and this happens. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Oh, shoot. I'm supposed to go 7 and 8 as the leader, 7 and 8 to fix this. And the follower says, is there something I can do to quickly fix this? Yes. When in doubt, walk it out. So the neat thing about West Coast Swing, it's in 2-beat increments. If you're on the wrong foot, you can fix yourself either with a triple step or a walk-walk. One of them is going to be right 50% of the time. So one of them will be right always. One of them will be right always. Freaking math major Ben over there, Mr. Spreadsheet. Your choice will be correct 50% of the time. One of the choices is going to be correct all of the time. One of the choices is going to be correct none of the time. But in 2 beats, you could guess again and probably be right. Yeah, so in all seriousness, this happens a lot, and this happens a lot even at the most high level of Jack and Jill's and dance contests where people are thrown crazy patterns, and the leaders and followers have to figure out what happened with their footwork and get back to something basic. So if this, we'll do it from this side, maybe it's easier. If this happens to you, you dance the 6 counts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You forget to walk, right? And you go 5 and 6, 5 and 6. Now as the leader, I've done it correct. Now Megan is going to be on the wrong foot. If she triples now, triple step. Her left foot's free and we're in trouble. Cool?
I mean, you could fix it there too.
Yep, you could still fix it there. If you need to walk and fix it, you're going to fix it with a triple. If you need a triple, you're going to fix it with a walk. Yeah, so that walk underneath yourself is super common. Watch this, we'll make it look good. Can you do the triple incorrectly and look good? 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, bingo. There you go, added styling. That's 100% what I wanted, you look good. So that is how to fix an incorrect whip by walking it out. When in doubt, walk it out. We have another question.
Do you teach the basket?
Do I teach the basket whip? That's a good question. Personally, not a ton.
Oh, I do it a lot.
Which is why they did it, yes, a little bit like the whip with a double outside turn. I see it less and less as the years go on, and so it's not in my favorite personal arsenal, but it still is in the arsenal of Dance Louisville. So this is not on the list. This is a bonus. The basket whip, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The theory being in the basket whip is the follower is going the direction she's been sent until told otherwise. 1, 2, 3, and into the basket, right? And then she continues back as I send her back, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's your basket whip. So there's your bonus pattern. That's going to make 15 tonight of things that you need to know. Certainly if you take a lesson from Emily or Miss Megan. Cool.
Women in Dance Louisville like that pattern a lot, apparently.
They do.
A lot of people like
They
the
do.
basket whip.
It is a common pattern. It is one of the core patterns by a lot of people's definition. I just personally, and this is where the problem with West Coast Swing, is we don't have it written down in a little gray book. If you're a ballroom dancer, you'll know the little gray book that decides all the arguments because it's been written down by the old timers. We just have the old timers arguing with us on the internet. That's all we, actually not really, because they're not even on the internet. They don't know how to use a computer. I'm just kidding. So moving along with our patterns, we have my version of a right side pass, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. I have a whip with an inside turn. That's pattern number 3. I have a whip with an that's pattern number 2. I have a whip with an outside turn. That's pattern number 3.
No, there was the outside roll too.
The outside roll. Sorry.
So it was 3 and 4.
3 and 4. And the outside roll, which would be this, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Again, I think it's a good skill for the leaders and the followers to know that it's possible to go that direction for an outside roll. Because outside rolls, this action of an outside roll, right, is going to get you to different moves that open up, which allow you to get to different things there. So it's a position that I like to teach because it's going to let you access a lot more stuff. Cool. Now, another one based off of a whip, and the reason why I introduced this, it's called a hustle whip. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The reason why we introduced the hustle whip, two reasons, or I made this list all by myself. In hustle, we would dance with a two-hand hold, right? And we'd have this kind of in and out feeling to us, right? So in the hustle whip, we're using two hands. The reason why I like to introduce it, for two reasons. Number one, it gets us away from leading the whip with just my natural closed position, right? And it gets me, as the leader, having to control the whip with my left hand enough to trade to my right hand, right? So now I'm basically engaging the use of my right hand when I lead, which up to this point we haven't had a lot of experience doing. You theoretically can dance all your patterns from the right hand, but a lot of them are awkward. So if we introduce this hustle whip, what this does is this lets me then lead some things like the outside turn from this hand, which then let me lead things like the inside roll from the right hand, and it starts to open up some things. So adding the hustle whip to your repertoire will allow the leaders and followers to start to pay attention to this hand here. Cool beans? Next up, and this one's the one that we end up teaching a lot of different versions and variations off in group classes when we travel, and that is a reverse whip. And this is a key for you to know. In the basic whip, the follower turns towards the leader. In the reverse whip, guess which direction she goes? The other way. 1, 2, she goes the other way away from the leader. Let's do it again on the other side. And then we'll explain why this is a core. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the reason why I like to introduce this is because that reverse whip position allows us to get to a lot of different cool positions. This reverse whip position allows us to get to a lot of cool moves off of the reverse whip. So practicing that, where lucky for the leaders, it's basic whip footwork for us. Nothing changes except for our lead. But for the followers, they have to dance 1, 2, which doesn't look like a whip. It almost looks like it's going to be maybe a right side pass or underarm turn. But she turns around 3 and then it's a whip. Off you go. So there is your whip. Now the final pattern, and I chose to introduce this again, if I was thinking about this as an intermediate dancer or as a beginner dancer, how do I scale up and what do I really need to know in my next core 7 patterns to be able to have a fighting chance dancing in an intermediate class anywhere, USA or anywhere in America? And that would actually not be a pattern, but a concept called the rock and go. We get this question a lot. So a rock and go from a whip would be the first one that I taught. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, rock and go with another pattern stuck on the end. We'll do that from this side. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, triple step, 9, and 10. So what happened there is the rock and go is a way to bypass the anchor step and jump right to the second count of your next pattern. So let's use 2 basic patterns, a whip and an inside turn. So if we count those out, we have a whip, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we'd have a 6 count inside roll. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So if we total those up, Ben, what's the math? 8 plus 6? 14. But if we used a rock and go, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. Ben, your math didn't work out. That's only 12 beats. It's not 14. How is that possible? Through a rock and go. They're staring at me. They're staring at me like I got something wrong with me.
I knew what the answer was.
So what happens in the rock and go? We're going to do this from this side. Imagine what happens on 7 and 8 using a whip as my workspace. Megan's going to anchor in place, 7 and 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, anchor in place. Wait a minute, she didn't anchor in place. because I led a, we'll go back to the right foot, I led a rock and go. So I brought her out of her anchor, which, stay there for me, looks like the same place as if she went 1, 2, and now we're both going to do the turn 3 and 4, 5 and 6. So the rock and go is another of the 7 patterns that I think you should be aware of as you move from beginner to intermediate West Coast swing. So real quick, we have the right side pass, my right side pass. We have an outside roll. That's number 2. We have a whip with an inside turn. That's number 3. We have a whip with an outside turn. That's number 4. We have a hustle whip. That's number 5. We have a reverse whip. That's number 6. We have some sort of pattern with a rock and go. That's number 7. So there are 7 patterns you need to know next after your basics. Do we have any questions? You guys just let me rant. Well, there you go. 7 basic patterns you need to know. We all agree on those. Sugar push, sugar tuck, left side pass, right side pass, inside roll, passing, tuck, and the whip. And then my personal set of 7 patterns, which is slightly different than the girls, would be my version of a right side pass, my outside roll, whip with an inside and outside turn, our hustle whip, our reverse whip, and our rock and go, and a basket whip for good measure if you want to keep the gals happy. We have a question.
Can you do the rock and go with the door back to the camera so they can see your feet?
Oh, absolutely. So we'll go this way. My back to the camera. So I'm going to give you the priority first. This will be back to the camera. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. My back to the camera, correct? Cool. So normally we'd anchor 7 and 8. So the priority, if I leave my footwork out of it, the priority is to get her to go back and forward onto that foot. Cool? So leaders, depends on who you take from. There's 2 different ways you can do this. The footwork doesn't matter as much as the concept. So the high level concept, if we're really well connected, is we'll move back. We'll actually move back together to bounce off, right? I teach to go with the follower because I think this is a little bit more functional. It's a little bit more functional for most people, but if you take from a big wig, high level West Coast swing dancer that only spends their time around big wig, high level West Coast swing dancers who don't have day jobs, or at this point don't have a job at all, it's my industry, I'm with you. I'm with you, right? Those people are really, they spend a lot of time dancing West Coast swing. They're very, very well connected. So they'll use this rock where they actually rock away from the follower as the leader. But functionally, I like to go forward and back. But as long as the follower follows, we're good to go.
Do you start with your back to the camera?
That is what I was trying
Oh,
to do.
start with the back of the camera.
I
Oh,
think it has to
1,
go the other way,
2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Inside turn, we'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll do a different pattern in an anchor step. And then this goes to last night's class. And the reverse whip. And the first pattern I ever learned at a workshop was to turn the whip to a 90-degree angle. That's the first pattern I ever learned at a convention. A few more questions.
Yes.
Yay.
Can you go over the lead for the outside roll in a little bit more detail?
Can we go over the lead for the outside roll in a little bit more detail? Absolutely. So the outside roll is a right side pass for me, and this is the outside roll. So the lead becomes this. I'm going to take my footwork out of it, just my hand. I need to get the follower to go forward and then back. So a lot of people call that a J-hook lead. I think the key is, as we're leading this forward, we both, leader and follower, need to maintain connection as we're getting on that, right? We need to maintain connection, because as the follower hits that step, I immediately have to be turning her back, right? And as I turn her back, I have to do the second thing, which is flip this hand up to be able to lead the turn, right? So if I did that again from this side, my footwork out of it, 1, I'm leading her there. We must maintain connection here because it's this moment that I use to turn the follower back. Now, hopefully, she's been led with rotation to continue the turn. Hopefully, she's been led with rotation to continue the turn. We rarely miss, actually. We rarely miss. We rarely miss. So because I'm leading somewhat aggressively and across the slot a little bit, that preps Megan to turn back, right? That lets me flip the hand up and continue to lead the turn. So that is the lead for the outside roll with the left hand, which is why I also like this right side pass, this fakey right side pass, because it's a very similar lead where I have to basically somewhat aggressively, that's a weird word to use in dancing, but more aggressively than I would, lead this to get her to go back and continue back that direction. Cool?
Yep. Two more.
Two more questions.
The next one, out of the rock and go, is the prep basically the last step? Is it happening at the same time as the end of the rock and go for the turn?
So is the prep for the turn, so if we are choosing, so the question is, the prep for the turn coming out of the rock and go, does it all happen at once? And that's a good question. I think I'm going to do it this direction. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I just need to bring her forward, right? If I wanted to lead a turn, I would have need to brought her forward with a little rotation, so she's prepped. So it really comes, and I'm going to do this the other way, please, Ms. Megan, with this hand. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I've squared her off right here because I might just want a left side pass. I don't need the prep. So if I need the prep, oops, this side again. If I need the prep, I'm going to need to open and open the door. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. So from here, I'm not letting her go back to that foot. I'm going to let her get to it. I'm going to put her back on the right foot, and I'm going to prep this. Sometimes I call this a chicken wing, where I have to really fold my arm in to let her get forward onto that. Now, Miss Megan, without even asking, if I said, Megan, what do you think about in that pattern? She would simply say, stick to this hand. Because the better she stays stuck to this hand, the better I can put her on one foot or another, the better that I can let her get to that foot, the better that she can feel the rotation with that hand. So as the follower, you stay stuck to the hand. Leaders, it's the amount that you turn this that will set her up for a rock and step, or an anchor step, or a rock and go into a prep into the turn. That's a great question.
The next one, as a follower, can we do the rock and go step from a free spin or other patterns, or do you have to wait for the leader to lead it?
Ooh, as the follower, are you allowed to do the rock and go by yourself, or does the leader have to lead it? As a general rule, you are not allowed to do it yourself, and let me explain why. There are places where we agree that you can take liberties in the dance, right? It's a 2-beat dance, so you can play within 2-beat increments, you can style between 2-beat increments, but if you start to tinker with that too much, you've really taken over control of the dance, and the rock and go would be one that I think you shouldn't take over, because I'm leading what I think is a 6 or 8 count or 14 count pattern, and I'm expecting it to end, and typically I've given you something to end on. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. I've given you a stop, right? If Megan rock and goes out of that, rock and go, she's come all the way out of that, right?
I'm not connected anymore.
She's not connected. So as a general rule, I would say no. However, if you're a very advanced follower, you probably have some effect of the feeling as you hit the anchor that might make the leader want to lead the rock and go. So this is where I talk about at the highest level of West Coast Swing and the coolest people that we watch on YouTube. There is very much a conversation. It is not the leaders just driving the followers through patterns. It is the leader initiating, the follower taking what initiation they feel with their own styling and movement, which then tells the leaders what might feel like, what they might want to lead next. So last night we did this, this little tuck version, right? If we did this in a basic way, 1, 2, and 3, 4, we anchor 5 and 6. There's your beginner class version. But last night we taught Megan doing a sweep, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. And because of the energy, and if you watch that on slow-mo, you'll watch her energy take me to that position. right? So I normally would have done an anchor step. But because I felt the energy of Megan across, right, that makes me want to step across, which then makes me want to lead maybe a reverse whip because of the position, right? In that case, Megan has done a 6-count pattern just like I thought. So if I'm Mr. Beginner, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, and he's just paranoid and going to do a sugar push, it doesn't mess him up. But if we took that, can you sweep out of that? 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. I can now start to feel that from a high level where she's in essence done a rock and go, right? She's come right out of that anchor. So you can on a high level, but as a general rule, not really, guys. So if you haven't already, visit westcoastswingonline.com. Check out countrydanceonline.com. Cool resources for you there. Buy one of Emily's cool t-shirts in the description below if you're on YouTube. It's not the description. It's a little thing. It's got cool t-shirts. And we sold quite a few of them. It's pretty cool. I like it. Anything else? Thank you, Miss Megan. Thank you, Mr. Ben. Thank you, Miss Emily. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.